And welcome, Dr. David Klein, the Stages of Life Institute, to the show today. And we call this the Stages of Life. It's your key to ongoing health and quality of life. Now, today we wanted to talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. And there's a lot of confusion out there. An awful lot of our listeners, an awful lot of the population thinks that they are one in the same. Alzheimer's, dementia. But the doctor, he says that's not right.
Well, it isn't. Okay, Alzheimer's disease classically was something called pre-senile dementia. This was dementia in individuals that were not old at all. But we've changed our definition, okay, for reasons that are unclear to me, to mean any sort of dementia whatsoever, but particularly in the elderly. It's not necessarily so. Dementia does not necessarily mean Alzheimer's disease, and Alzheimer's disease is not necessarily inevitable or a death sentence. So let's look at what Alzheimer's is. Alzheimer's is, oddly enough, a result of what's called neurofibrillatory tangles. It's a particular type of protein that within the cells, for whatever reason, gets knotted up. The cell doesn't work so well, and oddly enough, these executive functions in the brain start to diminish. What's more is you'll start to see a decreasing size of the brain itself. Well, these things may not be the same. You're going to hear clowns out there talking about, well, this is just another manifestation of diabetes type 3. And I'll just give a big yawn for this. Why? Because it's not something that you can prove, disprove, and probably means nothing at all. But there are certain things that you do need to know. And that's that should you be at risk for Alzheimer's disease, either because of family history or due to personal history, you need to start changing your diet, you need to start changing your habits as best you can, and you need to start to smarten up. Okay, first things first. Alzheimer's disease, or let's say senile dementia, is associated with the low levels of a hormone called pregnenolone. So what do? You run your blood through a lab, find out what your pregnenolone level is, and then start to replace it to healthy normal levels. What are healthy normal levels? Between 40 and 60 seem to be pretty good in my experience, and it hits something called the MAP-PREG receptor and starts to reverse some of the changes. The second thing you need to look at, and this is something that you can do on your own without my help or anybody else's, although you'd better study up, is something called DHA, or docosahexaenoic acid. Now, this stuff is a component of fish oil, olive oil, but it's an omega-3 of a special nature. Your brain uses bunches of this stuff for structural integrity. 60% of your brain is DHA, basically, and when you don't have enough of this stuff, it will waste away. You'll focus on your muscles. You'll say, well, gee, I need to eat meat to keep my muscles going. You better take DHA to keep your brain intact. The difference is we can see your flabby arms, we can see your flabby butt, but we can't really see your flabby brain. So DHA, in addition to, mind you, a good fish oil is very, very important. So you're taking the fish oil that gets you EPA and DHA, but you need to take an additional slug of DHA daily to keep this thing from happening. What else? Hormone-balanced testosterone and estrogen are necessary for cognitive function. So you're gonna go out there and talk about spending a ton of money on expensive antioxidants. You're going to spend a ton of money on all kinds of stuff, but if you don't pay attention to the body's basic transmitters, those things that are necessary to keep it going, none of the rest will matter. You can spend a lot of money on beets. You can spend a ton of money on all manners of tablets, antioxidants, but if you don't get your hormones balanced, it ain't going to work right.
Now, a lot of people will listen to us each and every day, and I know they are because they're talking to me everywhere I go, but they may then wander into a store that doesn't have the true explanations of everything, and they're hearing about DHA, and then they're running after some vitamin store where there's a kid that just got out of school and he's doing an afternoon thing there.
Well, the zit-faced kid. You got to love him.
Yeah, and he sells them DHEA. Now, what's the difference between the two?
DHEA is a hormone. Okay, DHA is an essential fatty acid. Okay, it's an omega-3. So what happens is you can't substitute bricks for mortar. You might well need DHEA, but you better know what you're doing, unless you want to turn the average chick into the average female monster. Okay, too much DHA will make an average nice gal into a lawyer. It's awful. Okay, whereas DHA, it'll moisten your eyes. It does all kinds of good things to the skin. all happy and beneficial. So you've got to take what you need. Abbreviations can be dangerous, and children in health food stores are a big risk. Okay, they don't necessarily know what's going on, and in fact, a minimum wage clerk is unlikely to be able to give you a straight answer anyway under the best of circumstances. So you'd better know what you're doing. Talk to your doctor. At least you have a better chance of hearing what's going on. At least they'll tell you when they're interested or not interested, rather than when they're getting their next smoke break out back. So that would be my personal feeling on this. But what else do you need to do to forestall the development of dementia? You need to lower your insulin level. Okay, this is associated with the development of dementia. High levels of insulin present in diabetics lead to dementia early on. So you have to lower it. You can do it with prescription items like metformin. That's one way to do it. But proper cinnamon, that's Ceylon cinnamon, not the garbage that you sometimes find, will lower insulin levels. Very, very important. Berberine, you got to pick your berberine, will lower insulin levels, as will vanadium and chromium if used in the right ratios and the right moieties. Very important. What about inositol? Okay, this is something that I've been paying a little bit closer attention to over the past 6 to 8 months. Inositol is a 6-carbon sugar, very similar to glucose in shape, but it's a stereoisomer. Your body needs it for something called phosphorus transfer. So in individuals that have dementia, memory issues, energy issues, frequently for $12 worth of inositol, you can straighten it out. So there's a little biological experiment you can do with inositol or inositol 6-phosphate or hexaphosphate for that matter, triphosphate if you can find it, that will help you tremendously. If in fact you've got somebody that has dementia, you can wake people up pretty quickly with this stuff if in fact that's what's going on. Dimethylglycine is another moiety that sometimes provides relief with regards to dementia. But the take-home message here, and I hope that somebody out there hears this, okay, is that you prevent these things. You don't wait, okay, for the ceiling to come down to fix the roof. You don't wait for the wheels to fall off your car before you get them greased up. You don't wait to smack through an intersection before you get your brakes fixed. And you don't wait until you can't remember your nephew's name, okay, to start dealing with these issues. This is cheap stuff. This is not a lot of money. It does need to be very regimented. Now, can you go out there and eat a box of beets every day? Sure, I'm sure that'll help you. Everybody needs their poop to turn red. But what you really, really need to do is to understand that there are many things that you need to do. There is a discipline to this. There is a science to this. There is a consistency to this. And you can't eat enough of any one food every day to do anything but make yourself nauseated.
This may be, this next question, a preview to a show or a whole bunch of shows. And that is when you mentioned go to your primary and ask him about this, this, and this, the first thought that I had, and that I think most all of our audience would have, is that there's too many primaries out there, in my opinion, that will go, I don't know, where'd you hear that? On the radio? Where'd you read that? In a magazine? Here's what we're going to do. And he's running off with the prescription company.
Well, it works, okay, for them. But what you need to understand, okay, is that it's like trying to take an aircraft carrier and turning it around on its dime. It takes a long time to get people to change their minds. With physicians, they tend to be very, very conservative in the worst way, which is called, being reactionary. Just the same, you need these folks, okay? They may not be any damn good in my opinion. They may not be very bright in my opinion. They may not be very useful in your opinion, but you still have to have them around in case you end up with a strep throat, because it takes a complete idiot not to be able to figure out how to treat a cold or a flu, or God forbid you have angina or something else.
Ooh.
Many GPs, family practice, docs see themselves really as the old-fashioned quarterback, where they get the ball and find somebody else to hand it off to before they get tackled. And you know something? You need them too. But more and more are starting to pay attention to what's been obvious to the rest of us for years, which is these medications have been around long before they became prescription. Okay, vancomycin and huperzine were prescription items before they went over the counter. They were helpful for vascular dementia back in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. They're still valuable now, even though they're over the counter. DHEA, very beneficial. Pregnenolone, very beneficial for dementia, over the counter, even though they're illegal in Europe, Canada, and South America. So the law may not carry The family docs may need a little help. Your job is just to take advantage of what's in front of you.
All right. So, folks, I think that our job, speaking about you and me, not necessarily the doctor, but our job is to listen to every possible input we can get and use the best possible information and go to PubMD, right? PubMD, Robin, how about a visit to the stages of life?
It's actually PubMed, PUBMED.gov.
All right.
G-O-V. All right, our phone number is 407-679-3337. Our website is stagesoflife.net. We are located in Longwood at 1917 Booth Circle. That's right off of I-4 and 434. Our office hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, and the health store is open during office hours. We're also on Facebook at Stages of Life Medical Institute.